In my words, I just feel like a lot of these cats are actors, rappers, and I'm Jeezy, you know what I'm saying? And they can never be me. I assure you, I can't speak for everybody,
right.
But ain't nobody put no hands on me.
I heard that.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't say that for everybody involved.
Stepped up though. He took a deep breath. When he stepped up, he had to face me though, to get to Jeezy. And when he stepped up, I yanked his chains off.
One thing about Rick Ross, drama seems to chase him everywhere he goes. Just one lyric from one of his songs threw him straight into the crossfire with one of the most feared gangs in the country.
Hey Rick, straight up, you know what you did first time we gave you a pass on the Larry Hoover Big Meat song. Now, you done really disrespected the organization by putting your face on, you put your star on, your face in this star right here.
That's
see
what
that
you
right
don't
there?
do.
It ain't nothing but 3 people that rock this star, the Jews, GD, Illuminati. GD, folk! GD, folk!
And to make it worse, that same track lit up a full-blown feud with none other than Young Jeezy.
What is it? What is it, Jeezy?
Where your favorite rapper at? I don't see that. I'm in the streets. Good look behind me. Yeah, hip-hop mountain. Yo.
When their camps finally came face to face, it didn't stay just music, it turned real, fast. The tension between Rick Ross and Young Jeezy started bubbling in the summer of 2010, and it all sparked from one song, Ross's explosive hit, B.M.F, Blowing Money Fast. That record was everywhere. Speakers shaking, clubs going wild, Ross shouting, "I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover." The track was inspired by the infamous Black Mafia family, a crew that made serious noise in the streets. But here's the problem. While Ross was out here rapping about that lifestyle, Young Jeezy actually had real connections with B.M.F. Even though Jeezy was never officially part of the crew, he was close to Big Meech himself back in the early 2000s. Before Jeezy became the star he is today, Meech was one of the people helping him move around, get recognition, and rise up in the game. That bond between them was real, authentic, something that came from loyalty and respect, not from trying to look tough on a track. So when Ross dropped B.M.F and started chanting names like Meech and Larry Hoover, Jeezy wasn't having it. It looked like Ross was cashing in on a legacy he didn't earn, and Jeezy wasn't about to let that slide without saying something. Not long after Ross's record blew up, Jeezy clapped back with his own track titled The Real B.M.F, making his point loud and clear. He even dropped in a real phone call from Big Meech himself, where Meech seemed to call out fake affiliations. It wasn't direct, but the message was loud enough. Everybody knew who he was talking about.
And then he did the B.M.F song over, and they was beefing off of that, remember?
Yeah.
And then Jeezy did the B.M.F song.
But Jeezy didn't stop there. He doubled down with another record, Death Before Dishonor, a freestyle over the same B.M.F beat Ross used. In that track, he spit lines like, "How you blowing money fast? You don't know the crew. Oh, you part of the fam? I never knew." It wasn't over-the-top disrespectful, but it cut deep. It was a clear shot, a reminder that not everyone can wear that B.M.F title like it's just another rap brand. The message was simple, but powerful, and Jeezy made sure the streets knew exactly where he stood. Ross didn't waste any time speaking up, but his response caught everyone off guard. It was calm, almost too calm. In an interview with MTV, he said he didn't really understand why Jeezy had a problem in the first place. To Ross, blowing money fast was just a concept, not a claim to anybody's real life story. He even said that if Jeezy wanted to make a record about B.M.F, he could have just called it The Black Mafia Family. At that point, Ross didn't seem eager to turn it into a full-blown feud, but everyone could feel the tension shifting by the day. Then Jeezy came out denying that his record was a diss at all. He swore it wasn't about Ross directly and that people were just twisting things. Jeezy said he only jumped on the beat like he would with any other track, just vibing with the music, not throwing shots. He said, "It's not a diss. What am I gonna get out of dissing that guy?" He even added that if Ross took it personally, that was just him being insecure. But that calm talk didn't stop the fire from spreading. A few months later, Ross clapped back with a diss track titled The Summer's Mine. This time, he wasn't holding anything back. Ross went straight for Jeezy with lines like, "You ninjas pathetic, leave you paraplegic. You throwing up sets, but you really from Cleveland. And on your dogs, I'm just showing off. Self-made, you just affiliated, really a water boy ninja. You entertainment. That track made it crystal clear. Their tension had turned into a real beef. Fast forward 2 years later, and things finally hit a boiling point. It was October 2012 during the BET Hip Hop Awards in Atlanta, when their feud turned from words to straight-up chaos. Reports say it all went down inside the Atlanta Civic Center, right in the middle of the show. Both rappers rolled deep with their crews, and what started as a heated argument quickly turned into pushing and shoving. Before anyone knew it, fists were flying, security was scrambling, and the whole backstage turned into a war zone. The entire hip-hop world couldn't stop talking about it. People were scrambling everywhere, trying to pull the two camps apart as security rushed in to break up the madness. It was chaos, but the fight didn't stay backstage for long. It spilled straight into the parking lot, and things got even messier. Tempers were flaring, entourages were jumping in, and the whole scene turned into a circus. Police showed up around 7 p.m., locking down parts of the venue just to keep things from getting worse. Rumors spread like wildfire. Hot 97's Funkmaster Flex even tweeted that shots had been fired and someone was arrested, which sent social media into a total frenzy that night. But when the dust finally settled, Atlanta police confirmed the truth. No shots were fired, nobody got seriously hurt, and no one was arrested. Still, the whole situation was wild, especially since it all went down while a tribute to the late Chris Lighty was happening on stage. Fans inside the building had no clue a fight was raging outside. All they knew was that the show suddenly got locked down.
What is it? What is it, Jeezy?
Where your favorite rapper at? I don't see that. I'm in the streets. Good look behind him.
Yeah, hip-hop.
And you could feel the tension hanging heavy in the air. In the days that followed, all kinds of stories started popping up about what really happened that night. One of Jeezy's bodyguards, a man named Dread, gave his own version in multiple interviews. He claimed that when Ross stepped up to Jeezy, things got heated fast, and at one point, he straight up snatched Ross's chains right off his neck. According to Dread, he later had those chains tested and said they turned out to be fake. Instead of keeping them, he claimed he sold them and used the money to buy an AK-47. That statement had everybody talking.
Tough though. He took a deep breath. When he stepped up, he had to face me though, to get to Jeezy. And when he stepped up, I yanked his chains off. Yeah, for the chain. But the fake ones, nobody wanted it. It was like, it's fake. They say that's a high-priced costume, Houston costume jewelry.
And you went across the street and bought an AK-47.
Meanwhile, Jeezy didn't seem fazed at all by the drama. When he spoke on it later during an interview with Big Boy's Neighborhood on Power 106, he brushed the whole thing off, saying the award show was actually great and that he and Ross had just crossed paths in the hallway. Jeezy made it sound like it was nothing, but the streets knew that tension was still simmering beneath the surface. Apparently, that night at the BET Awards was the very first time Rick Ross and Young Jeezy had ever come face to face. According to Jeezy, they exchanged a few words, but nothing serious went down. He said nobody laid hands on him, and if something really was going to happen, that would have been the time. But it didn't need to go there.
I just felt like, he spoke, I spoke, and that was basically it. But at the end of the day, it's been going on for a while, so I just felt like if it was to be handled, it should have been handled there.
Right.
We was gonna get past it to keep moving.
Jeezy made it clear he wasn't about to waste energy on fake beefs just to get publicity. In his eyes, too many rappers were out here acting like movie characters instead of being real. He even called it out, saying he wasn't interested in any WWF propaganda, the kind of stage drama artists use to sell records. To him, Ross could play the tough guy all he wanted, but Jeezy wasn't buying into it. He said, "I'm a boss, I'm a G, that's just how it is."
I refuse to be a part of this WWF, propaganda and BS to sell records. You know what I mean? If that's who you want to be, you want to be a tough guy, you be that. I'm a boss. You know what I'm saying? I'm a G. But I assure you, I can't speak for everybody, but ain't nobody putting no hands on me.
Despite all the heat and tension from that night, time eventually cooled everything down. By 2014, both rappers finally decided to bury the hatchet and move on. It didn't happen instantly. There was some serious behind-the-scenes moves made to bring peace between them. Two people in particular played a major role, T.I. and DJ Khaled. T.I. reportedly had a real heart-to-heart with Jeezy, reminding him that nothing too serious had even gone down between him and Ross. No bloodshed, no major damage. So why let pride make things worse? T.I. told him straight up, If nothing's happened that we can't fix, then let's fix it before something actually does. Around that same time, DJ Khaled stepped in too, acting as a middleman. According to Jeezy, Khaled set up a private meeting for both of them to finally sit down and talk it out. And by then, even Jeezy had started realizing how pointless the whole feud had become. He admitted to Khaled, "I don't even know what we beefing over." That one honest conversation finally put an end to one of hip-hop's most talked about rivalries. And just when everyone thought it was over and done with, Jeezy and Ross shocked the entire industry. They actually teamed up and dropped a record together. It was the perfect plot twist nobody saw coming. The track War Ready dropped on Rick Ross's Mastermind album in 2014, marking the moment everyone realized the beef was officially done. It wasn't just another song, it was a symbol that the past had been buried for good. In an interview with HuffPost Live, Ross even called the whole feud a lot of miscommunication, saying that their collab wasn't just about peace, it was about doing something powerful for the culture.
At the end of the day, you know, it's bigger than Rick Ross and it's bigger than Young Jeezy, you know what I mean? It's a culture that we represent, and at the end of the day, we never has stepped on each other's toes.
But here's where things got wild. The real irony hit later. Jeezy had originally gone at Ross out of loyalty to the B.M.F family, defending the crew he once rolled with. Yet in a twist nobody saw coming, things came full circle when Jeezy himself eventually fell out with the same B.M.F he had once stood up for. Back in the early 2000s, Jeezy was that hungry rapper from the streets trying to carve out a lane in drip hop. He had the hunger, the sound, and the story, but what he didn't have yet was reach. That's where Big Meech came in. Meech saw something special in Jeezy, raw authenticity, real ambition, that street energy you can't fake. And with the power and connections of the Black Mafia family behind him, Jeezy suddenly had a whole movement in his corner.
What do you think made Meech, drew so many people to Meech? What was it?
Because he cared, man. Like, he really did. Like, like he's a genuine dude.
Meech wasn't just showing love. He was investing serious weight behind Jeezy's come up. With B.M.F backing him, doors that were once shut started flying open. The B.M.F name carried major influence both in the streets and the music industry, and they used that muscle to push Jeezy to the next level. They poured resources into his career, funding music videos, making sure his records spun in every club, and using their network to flood the airways with his name. Everywhere you went, Jeezy's voice was ringing out. When he dropped Let's Get It, Thug Motivation 101, it hit the game like a storm. Every line felt real, straight from the block, straight from experience. That's what made Jeezy connect. He wasn't pretending to be from the streets. He was the streets. His words carried that grind, that struggle, that motivation every hustler could feel deep down. Tracks like Trap or Die and Go Crazy became street anthems. They weren't just songs, they were blueprints for ambition and survival. Jeezy's music spoke to the pain, pride, and hustle of street life. And with B.M.F behind him, his rise to the top felt unstoppable. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Jeezy's rise to fame lined up exactly with B.M.F's golden era, when the crew was living like kings. The bond between Jeezy and Big Meech went way beyond just business. It was built on real mutual respect. Jeezy always talked highly of Meech, calling him a man who looked out for his people and always gave back to everyone around him. Meech wasn't just some street boss. He was a larger-than-life figure who made everyone in his circle feel like family. His presence was magnetic. When Meech walked in, the whole room shifted. One story that perfectly captured that wild era was their legendary trip to Cancun. Meech didn't just fly out a few friends, he brought an army. He literally chartered a private plane and took around 300 people, including Jeezy, for what's now remembered as one of the most insane hip-hop vacations ever. It was straight luxury, champagne everywhere, pool parties running till sunrise, private villas packed with music, laughter, and non-stop celebration. Every single day felt like a movie, and Jeezy was right there in the middle of it all.
One time, this called me and said, "Yo, Jeezy, we going to Cancun." I said, "Who, Meech?" "We." "Who is we?" "Everybody. Call everybody you know. I'm going to call everybody I know." This chartered a plane, not a jet, a plane, and took 300 people to Cancun, Mexico.
But it wasn't just Jeezy who saw the power BMF held. The entire music industry knew these guys were a force you couldn't ignore. Even 50 Cent once spoke on it, saying he was amazed at how deep BMF was in the scene. He recalled that back in 2003, their presence in clubs was so massive that even someone like Diddy couldn't outshine them. When BMF pulled up, they took over. They buy out the whole bar, every bottle, every spotlight, every ounce of attention was theirs. You couldn't step in the room without feeling their dominance.
I stayed away from it because I know who I am. Yeah, and I know how easy it is for me to. I might have bought something. Yeah, you could. They would reach out and stuff like that, and I would avoid it.
Yeah,
because it just wasn't good for where I was at. I was like, nah, because everything else that was going on says I would do it.
But 50, always sharp and strategic, kept a respectful distance. He admired what Meech built, but understood something most didn't. Empires that flashy rarely last forever, and he was right. Eventually, the feds caught on to what was really happening behind the scenes. BMF's empire wasn't just built on music. It was powered by a massive drug operation, moving hundreds of kilos across the country. Their wild spending and flashy lifestyle made them way too visible, and the attention they attracted became their downfall. When the crackdown came, it hit fast, hard, and left no room to escape. Big Meech and his brother Terry Southwest T. Flannery were eventually arrested. And just like that, one of the most powerful organizations in hip-hop and street culture crumbled overnight. Everything they built, gone in a flash. That's when things got complicated for Jeezy. When times were good, he was proudly repping BMF, shouting them out in songs, wearing the brand and shining right alongside them. But when the indictments started dropping and the empire began to collapse, some people close to Meech started whispering that Jeezy had vanished. To them, it looked like he'd taken what he needed, the credibility, the image, the exposure, and then stepped away when it got too hot. Over the years, several BMF affiliates have spoken on it, and the split in opinion has always been clear. Some defended Jeezy, saying he was never part of the business side and had every right to protect his career. Others, though, felt like he should have stood by the family that once boosted him up, especially after how much BMF had helped him rise.
If you and your homeboys just walking through the mall, and it's 3 of y'all, and then 15 guys come and say, we finna beat y'all, and then that run, that was Jeezy. He was the that ran.
So he abandoned the name when he got hot?
I mean, look, what's understood don't even got to be talked about.
Understood.
Everybody know, man. It ain't no secret.
One story that really showed how tense things got came from Clem, Jeezy's former right-hand man. According to him, the fallout got so bad that one day they were nearly shot by a BMF member. It was a standoff, guns out, adrenaline high, nobody backing down. At one point, the guy allegedly threatened to pull the trigger, but Jeezy stood his ground, stared him dead in the eye, and dared him to do it. Thankfully, nobody pulled that trigger, and it ended without bloodshed.
Jeezy called his bluff. Jeezy was like, y'all, you ain't gonna shoot. And Jeezy took the gun and put it to his head and was like, shoot. If you gonna shoot, shoot. And then
but it showed just how deep the tension ran. Despite all the talk and accusations, Jeezy has always kept his tone respectful when it comes to BMF, especially Big Meech. He's never denied their bond. In fact, he's praised Meech many times, calling him a natural-born leader and someone who left a permanent mark on the culture. But Jeezy's also been firm about one thing. He wasn't part of BMF's drug empire. According to Jeezy, he and Meech were tight. They hung out, shared respect, and supported each other. But that's where it stopped. The streets might have linked their names, but Jeezy said his success came from his grind, his music, his hustle, not from BMF's operations. Then, in 2020, the drama flared up again when Terry Flannery, a.k.a. Southwest T, was released from prison. And of course, 50 Cent, being 50 Cent, couldn't resist stirring the pot. He jumped online calling out everyone who'd ever been connected to BMF, Jeezy, Diddy, Irv Gotti, basically telling them to check in with Terry and show respect for what BMF had done for the culture. The way 50 said it, it almost sounded like these guys owed a respect tax to the BMF legacy. Jeezy did eventually link up with Terry after his release, but he stayed solid on his position. He said he had no problem showing respect, but he didn't owe anybody anything. Jeezy made it clear that he never moved product with them and that he didn't even know Terry personally, just through Meech.
Those people putting out narratives as if I owed them. Oh, I don't owe them anything. Right. You know what I'm saying? I've never done business, that type of business with them to owe them anything. Mm-hmm. I don't really know T. I knew of T. Right. Because when I was kicking it with Meech, him and T were like beefing. Oh.
Still, that explanation didn't sit right with everyone. Some people started calling cap on Jeezy's version of events after court documents from the B.M.F. trial resurfaced. During that massive case, a former B.M.F. member named Ralphie Sims, testified, claiming that Jeezy had allegedly received kilos from B.M.F. back in the day. That claim reignited the old whispers that Jeezy might have been deeper in the game than he let on. But not everybody believed it. J-Bo, another major B.M.F. figure who really lived that street life, came out and backed Jeezy's story. According to J-Bo, Jeezy wasn't pushing weight for B.M.F. He was just around them, benefiting from the energy, the movement, and the spotlight they brought. In other words, Jeezy was B.M.F. adjacent, not B.M.F. involved. Meanwhile, Rick Ross ended up forming a real friendship with Big Meech after Meech went to prison. Their bond grew over time and surprisingly sparked a whole new wave of tension, this time between Ross, Big Meech, and 50 Cent. It was like the B.M.F. legacy refused to fade, morphing into a new chapter of hip-hop drama that still keeps fans talking today. The story of Rick Ross, Jeezy, and B.M.F. is one of loyalty, power, betrayal, and redemption, a saga that shaped an entire era of rap history. From the rise of an empire to its fall, and the artists who carried that name into the spotlight, it's a story that shows how fame and the streets can never stay too far apart. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Jeezy wrong for stepping away, or was he just protecting his career? Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment to keep this story alive. The culture never sleeps.